to have you here tonight. Thank you for spending some time with us. So we also want to thank our panelists, who Christiana will introduce shortly, for lending us some of their insights. And this is Talal. Talal is the Vice President of the MBA Association. And I know all of you, so please don't think I'm rude. My name is Gabby, and I am the President of the MBA Association.
Hi everyone. Thank you so much for coming. We gathered some questions from you about the interviews, about the resumes, about the professional etiquette, and we'll be asking our panelists. So please enjoy, and thank you for coming.
And let me briefly introduce the rest of our board of directors. We have Solomon, who is the Director of Finance and Compliance for the MBA Association. So he's our resident number cruncher. We have Priyanka, and Priyanka is our Director of Engagement, and she is just an awesome, fun gal, so that fits. And then I think everyone knows the wonderful Gloria Priest, who is our MBA Director and a burst of sunshine in this world. And without further ado, let me introduce our moderator for the evening. So this is a panel, and we will have a moderator. It's Christiana Upchurch, who is our Director of Marketing for the MBA Association. And Christiana will introduce our panelists to you.
Bear with me. Let me start over. Donald Smith is Vice President of Business Development at First Farmers Bank and Trust. Then we have the lovely Diana Tenbrook. She's the Director of Marketing at Solidarity Credit Union. Then we have Todd Campbell. He is the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs and Enrollment Management here at IUK. And then we have Travis Trott, who is the VP of Customer Investment and Supply Chain at FinishMaster. Then we have Paul Wyman, the Wyman Group Real Estate. And last but certainly not least is John Sigler. He's the CFO of Kokomo Brand.
Welcome.
Company, your career, and how you earned your role in logistics.
Sure. So tell me if I'm talking too loud. Everybody hear me? All right. So, company first. Okay. Company I work for, FinishMaster. I hope I'll say I hope you don't have to use us in some fashion, which means you would have had an accident, wrecked your car, because we sell automotive refinish products to collision centers that repair cars. Right? So if you have the unfortunate situation where you do have that, I just hope you don't get hurt, right? Because we do like accidents, but we just don't like anybody get hurt in those accidents. So our company is headquartered in Indianapolis. We are the nation's largest distributor of auto paint and supplies. We have about 170 locations through the country. Our last reported sales were $420 million. We're beyond that, but I can't tell you what it is because we're publicly traded. There's some rules around that, right? And we don't report because we roll up to a larger organization in that respect. So the question was, how did I get my role in logistics, right? So I'm a little bit of a mutt. I've got a CPA, I've got an MBA in finance. I came up through the finance side, which, John's the CFO, right? But I'm a big believer that the numbers rule the world in some fashion, right?
Oh, no. I'm doomed.
You gotta have all these creative sides, right? And all the pieces to go along with it, but the numbers never lie, right? The good thing about that is that it opens up a lot of opportunities for you to do a lot of different things. In logistics, I don't really do logistics. It's not like a freight forwarding and things of that nature, right? We really do inventory management and supply chain type activity, right? So typically in an organization, inventory is one of your largest assets. So for us, it's more of making sure that we're got a swift, even flow of product that we are turning in on an ongoing basis, and we're making as much money off of it as we possibly can. So that's really what we do. So at the end of the day, It might be inventory, but it's still numbers. That's how I got there.
Thank you so much. Our next question is for John. What do you think of Certified Finance Professional accreditation, and do you think it is necessary to work in finance?
I'm not all that familiar with the certified financial professional. Like I said, my experience has been from a CPA standpoint. However, taking these type of tests pretty much dictate that you've got the aptitude and you've got the ability to solve these financial accounting problems. So I think it's got to be beneficial. Yeah, absolutely.
The next question is for Ms. Diana. What challenges have you faced as a woman in your career, and what advice can you provide to women as they are entering the workforce or climbing the ladder?
Thank you, Christiana. Can you hear me okay? Good, great. Well, I started out in the banking world, and when I started out, I don't even want to tell you how many years ago it was. But it was basically all of the men that were in management or officers. It was all men, 100% men. They decided to promote me as long as I attended Indiana University Kokomo. They said they would promote me into the management stream as long as I made a C or better, grade, and then they would reimburse my education, which was very cool. Before I was promoted, I ran 2 branches and did a little dibbling in the market, and this was at a bank. I had lunch with the CEO of the credit union. He had just moved to Kokomo with the president of our bank, and the president of our bank could not answer his questions, but I could continue to learn everything from step 1 through step 100, and offered me a job at the credit union. So a lot of the challenges that I had going into the credit union world were basically the same as it was a man's world. My first experience with the new CEO, he gave me a book on dressing for success. How do you take that?
Wow.
Yes, it was quite startling. So what you do is you have a very important piece of your life being your mentors. You have people that you can turn to and talk to about it. In my case, it was my grandmother. She was very important in my life. So I talked to her about it, and you just sit back and you kind of watch, listen, and learn. And so as a woman, I stumbled a little bit in the beginning, but I think the most important thing to remember is to be yourself, be honest to yourself, be who you are, and do your job to more than better than your ability. I think we do have to give a little bit more than 100%. I was doing some research about this, and only 20% of Congress is made up of females. Mm-hmm. And only 3% of CEOs are in the Fortune 500 business world. Only 3%. We are lagging behind by 4 to 7% of outside world countries. So it's really disappointing. But another thing that I want to remind women of, sometimes women are more critical of other women. They don't always embrace them and try to lift them up. So I would just encourage you along the way to always encourage your peers, whether it is a man or a woman. And as you enter the workforce and climbing the ladder, just as I said, just be honest to yourself. Work really, really hard. I mean, hard work doesn't hurt anyone. Treat everyone as you would like to be treated. Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Our next question is for Paul. How do you promote your business, and what types of activities and investments in public relations or advertising make it very successful?
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to be here today. I'm not usually this scruffy. I'm participating in No Shave November, raising money.
Awesome. Yeah.
We're raising money for the Crossing Education School, an alternative school here in Kokomo. So I just want to share that with you all.
We don't judge.
Thank you. So promoting my business, I have a simple philosophy when it comes to promoting my business or anybody in sales and or marketing, and that is see the people. And it's the simplest way that I can explain it. And it's a huge part of my daily business is to be out seeing the people. Being in sales and being an entrepreneur and trying to grow my company, there's a percentage of it that's done from behind my desk and on the phone, but the truth of the matter is I got to be out in front of people. And so a lot of times that's in me scheduling lunches. Very rarely do I have lunch by myself. Is being engaged in organizations in the community, volunteering for nonprofit organizations that I have a passion for, is being out and meeting people, cold calling people, believe it or not, still in this day and age, setting appointments. I was sharing with Diana, one of my greatest sales and opportunities that I did here at Kokomo was from a cold call to a business owner down in Indianapolis. And so it's really about seeing the people when you're trying to grow a business. Now, we also do our standard type of marketing things, billboards, direct mail, those sorts of things. Each one of them has its own strategy behind it. Each one has its own niche market that we may be going after, and they're all designed with a purpose. So the combination of the two, seeing the people and then the marketing strategies, tend to work out really well for us.
Thank you. For Don, if you hired an MBA, what level of job do you feel he or she would be suited for with little work experience?
Okay, well, that's a good question. Having an advanced degree like that really kind of shows any HR or bank officer a lot of things. It shows that you're dedicated. It shows that you're committed to higher education. It shows that you have designs about becoming a professional. So right off the bat, it kind of shows that you are separated from other people who just kind of want to come in and get a job just so that they can get a paycheck. It shows that you're interested in establishing a career. So right off the bat, you've made a pretty good first impression, which is absolutely key, really, to any job. But experience really is something that is invaluable, and it's just something that you just cannot obtain by going to class and learning. On-the-job training is paramount. So internships are absolutely, I won't say crucial, but they are important. So something that you should look into as you maybe are working towards getting that degree, where you can kind of learn a little bit about the industry, about the position that you're looking at. It's one thing to maybe kind of go online and see what job opening is available, or maybe you've got an interest in that, but until you really kind of learn a little bit or understand a little bit about what the career it is that you're looking for, and that's really what bankers and really pretty about all professionals are looking for. I mean, we can hire seasonal people who can do a job, an entry-level position, and there's usually a lot of high turnover with that from time to time, but people who are interested in a career, and that's usually what we look for with people with advanced degrees. Where are we going to put these people? Well, obviously they have to kind of come in, if they have no experience, we have to give them some experience. So even though it may appear to be an entry-level job, we will put them in that particular job, and then we will evaluate them. We will see how they do, whether they have initiative, whether they want to kind of take control of things, or do they come to work on time? Simple things. Their appearance. Do they come in, particularly if you're in a position where you're going to be dealing with the general public? Your appearance. Are you timely? Are you punctual? So just learning to become a professional. You might have an advanced degree, which there again says a lot about you, but now you have to do that in the workplace. And many times your supervisor will challenge you by giving you projects and just see if you can meet a deadline. See if you can, see how well you are, particularly if you have to submit a report to a supervisor, just to see how professional you are. So I don't know if I'm completely answering the question, but I'm going to say what appears to be an entry-level job, and in some cases it may be, a lot of times it's your initiative on how well not only you do that, but your initiative in wanting to move forward. Because if you do have that degree, we expect that from you. We expect that, and if you don't show that inner drive, then you could be pigeonholed and just pretty much stay at that position.
What are major interview phone calls?
What are major interview faux pas? Well, let me start with this. Before you even get to the interview, you've got a lot of hurdles to cross. So you've invested a lot of time and energy even getting to that point. So generally, when you get to early on in the process, you got 100 apps for a position. People are looking not for a reason to hire you, they're looking for a reason to eliminate you. Because they need to get to a manageable number. Once they get to that manageable number, they're really looking for a reason to hire you. So now you've gotten to the fun part of it. So you want to make sure, again, as Don said, you want to make sure you're punctual. You want to make sure that you look professional. You are spending a lot of time, a lot of money earning an advanced degree. So you've made an investment. Make sure you make an investment in a suit that looks like the professional that you want to be. Because like it or not, we all make judgments on people in the first 15, 30 seconds when we meet them. Usually, I've been wrong occasionally, but usually within 5 minutes, I know whether I want to hire somebody or not. I don't intentionally do that, I just know it. And so part of that is how you look when you show up. Also, anytime you can get an employer talking about them or their company, you win, right? So yeah, you need to talk about you and how you are going to be able to help them. But if you can get them talking about themselves or their company, you win. People like to talk about themselves. Let them do it. And then finally, another faux pas that I see, I cringe a little bit when somebody asks at that early stage, how much are you going to pay me? Yeah, it just doesn't feel good, right? I mean, we all know we need to get paid, right? I get it. We all want to get paid, and we want to get paid more. There will be a time for that, not in the interview. Okay, so don't ask about that. It's all about how special you're going to make their company.
Diana? What is the largest obstacle or challenge you face in your marketing career?
Well, goodness, there are lots of them, but they're all very challenging and they're all very rewarding in the end. I think basically it's keeping myself educated in all the different ways that you can market all of your products and services, getting the right message to the right people, being able to quote the numbers. Somebody talked about numbers earlier, that was still an important factor, and it is. We live in an ever-changing world, and I need to be able to adjust and change with the world and be able to market it like the world wants to hear about it. And always coming up with new ideas. I have one product and service, a checking account. How many ways can you really market a checking account? I mean, everybody does the same thing, right? It's not like it's automated. There aren't too many things you can do with that, but it's just finding a new, unique way to market your products and services and keep it fresh. Keep my boss happy. That's really important. And going that extra mile. Today, in today's world, I think you really need to push yourself and go a little bit further than that other person because there's always somebody standing behind you that wants that job. And so I think keep pushing yourself and whatever strength it takes from inside, pull it out. You can do it. And be confident about yourself. Thank you.
Travis, what advice do you have for current students at IU to help enrich our educational experience?
So what advice do I have to enrich your educational experience? Just a couple things. Right? First would be ask questions. Right? Be curious. And the reason you got here is that you're interested in learning. Right? So it doesn't stop when you graduate. Right? You might feel good walking across the podium, right? But really the education really happens afterward. Right? And the only way you get to the job you want is to put your time and ask a lot of questions. And be curious about the company and try to figure out what they do. Right? I mean, you guys are right. And it's really kind of what the rubber meets the road in that regard. And when you raise your hand and try to do a lot of different things inside of that company, that's really when you get the best overall experience. The second one is learn how to tell a story. Okay? So no different than whether you're interviewing or whether you're trying to sell real estate or whatever you're trying to do or market, right? And you can try to sell a checking account without telling a story, right? So figure out what your audience is wanting, right? And learn to tell the story in the way that they are listening to it. And that listener train of thought is really the key, because anybody can create a spreadsheet, right? Anybody can create a PowerPoint presentation, but it's really taking the information and telling a story with it to make it actionable is really the biggest thing you can try to do.
startup environment like right now?
To answer the question, basically, it's difficult. In my line of work here, it's always great to see a young person, anybody come into my office, an entrepreneur who's got a vision, they have an idea, they have something that they really think would be terrific. And it really is great to see that spirit. I mean, the entrepreneur spirit is something that has made America great. But the environment is different. A lot of times these people come in with a vision, they come in with a dream, but they have very little knowledge, particularly detailed knowledge of what it takes not only to get it started, but to have it be successful. Now, they come to us, to the bank, really principally to seek a loan, to try to be able to either finance it or to be a partner. And we're willing to kind of look at it to be a partner, but that's what we are. We are a business partner with them. We're not just going to loan them money. Lending loan, to make a loan to somebody, the first thing a banker has got to ascertain is, are we going to get this money back? That is lending 101. We have to be sure we're going to get it back. So not only are we going to make the loan to them, but we have a vested interest in their success. And we want them to succeed. It's in our best interest to help them succeed. That's a win-win situation for everybody. So we want to become, and really we insist on becoming a partner with them. And what we do with that is not only do we analyze their vision, their dream, their business, whatever it is they want to do, we look at it from a variety of angles, the practicality of it. Is it reasonable? Is it going to work? What's the marketplace? What's your product? What's your competition? How are you going to promote this? What are your capital reserves? What's your business plan? So we want to see a lot of detailed information, homework if you will, on how they've thought this out. And if they haven't thought it out very well, then we were willing to try to help them do that. We want to see a business plan, and then we'll look at it for accuracy and to see if we determine that it's reasonable. And we're going to take a conservative view with that. I mean, bankers are by nature a conservative lot, which is not really a bad thing because there again, we are in the risk business and we want to mitigate our risk as much as possible. So in answer to the question, it is difficult, and the environment is even changing, which has made it even a little bit more difficult in light of the economy going through a rough patch, and the regulatory environment, which bankers have to deal with when you have regulators looking over our shoulder and looking at a stack of papers and saying, why should we make this loan to Diana? And we may say, well, she's a great lady. And they're going to say, well, we know that, but what difference does that make? Okay, so we have to be able, to defend that loan. So it is difficult, but there again, we encourage these people to come in and first of all, make them understand that we are a willing partner. We are a professional provider, and that's the role that we want to fill.
Todd, what is the most important thing you look for in a resume? And what are some resume turnoffs?
And let me say this, resumes are tough because you can ask me and everybody up here would give you different advice, right? So resume, you can ask, some people like this kind of format, some people like that, but there are some non-negotiables. And again, I go back to when you get 100 applicants, which many times we'll get 100 applicants for a position, and you got to go through that. I'm telling you, I'm not looking for the winner. I'm looking for the 70 that I can immediately get rid of. It's just, otherwise you'd spend your whole month engaged in that process. And so don't give them a reason, right, for you to be in that first 70. Don't have typos. You'd be surprised how many resumes we get where they're applying to IU Kokomo, but in there, somewhere in the cover letter it says, because I think working for Solidarity would be, they haven't changed it, right? They've got a standard letter and they didn't change it. And so, no, you're in the 70s, right? So make sure you're not in the 70s. It's a fine line between, promoting yourself and having integrity in how you do that. You've got to promote yourself. And I know for many of us that's uncomfortable, but you need to get it on paper, have friends, have mentors, have colleagues help you position. I hate working on my resume. It's one of the things I hate most in the world. It's just not a comfortable process for me and for many people. but they don't know you for most of the time. They're not going to know you. So you've got to do a good job with integrity of selling who you are in that. Also, I would tell you, always have a cover letter. We get lots of resumes, and I look at if you don't even bother to put a cover letter, then how serious are you about that position? So again, and then ask lots of different people. I would say ask 3 or 4 different professionals what they like in a resume, and then you take from each of them what makes sense to you. And if you're going to apply for a position in the banking world, don't ask a student affairs person. Ask somebody in the banking world what they like, so that you're getting, and ask several bankers what they like in a resume, so that you're getting information that may be important.
John, how involved is a CFO in daily transactions or daily business?
I think that varies depending on the size of the company. For my company, I don't get involved very much in the daily transactions. Now, I will get involved if one of my accounting people has a question from a detail standpoint, from an account reconciliation, that sort of thing. But quite honestly, a lot of my time is set with maybe the overall direction of the company, meeting and talking with bankers almost weekly. Again, a lot of phone calls, a lot of meetings, again, a lot of setting the overall direction of the company. And so I really don't get involved in a lot of the daily transactions.
Thank you. Paul, what are the advantages and disadvantages of being an entrepreneur?
Well, being an entrepreneur and owning your own business has quite a few advantages. I can take a vacation whenever I want to. Guess what? A disadvantage to my business is I can take a vacation whenever I want to. You have to be careful as an entrepreneur because so many of your advantages can quickly become your disadvantage if they're abused. And so you have to really think through when you decide it's time to take some time off. What does that look like? Am I sticking to the hour lunches, or am I all of a sudden taking 2-hour lunches? And what happens is as time gets away from you and you turn these advantages into disadvantages, it truly does affect your business negatively. But in all seriousness, it is an advantage. If my son has something at school, a program at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, guess what? I'm at that program at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and nobody can tell me that I can't be there at 2 o'clock in the afternoon program. I love that. And the flip side of it is that, I work enough to make sure that I work around that schedule and put the hours in to get done what needs to get done. Another advantage of being an entrepreneur owning your own business is there's nobody to tell you what to do. Now, if you're that type of personality where you can make good decisions and work hard to get things done, you'll thrive in that environment. If you don't need that constant direction from somebody else, you will see that as a huge advantage to be an entrepreneur because you can make decisions at a very quick rate, and decisions that you think are right for you and your company, and head down that road. A disadvantage for some people being an entrepreneur would sometimes be the additional stress that's created because of that situation. All of a sudden, I have to meet a payroll on Friday. It's on my shoulders now to make sure my employees have their paychecks and their families are counting on that and relying on it. And so I would say stress could be a disadvantage if not managed properly. So there's a lot of good things about being your own boss, and there are some stressful things about being your own boss. And you just have to weigh those out based on your personality and what drives you as to whether that's right for you.
I want to switch this up a little bit and open the questions up to several of you at a time, if that's okay. Diana, John, and Paul, what can we do to set ourselves apart from other candidates?
I look for polish when people come in to talk. I look for, again, use of grammar, eye contact, neatness, that sort of thing. I want to make sure that if someone is going to talk to us as far as for an interview or for a job, again, there's polish there. People know how to talk, how to communicate, and that's kind of what I view as important. So,
I would offer 2 bits of advice on that. The first one is research the organization or the company that you're about to interview with. I cannot tell you how powerful that is when you're sitting in that chair and you get into a discussion about the company and what your role might be in the company, and you are engaged in the conversation because you've done that research and you understand. And it's all of a sudden you're having this mature adult conversation between two adults that one day have the potential of working together. And so please do that research in advance. Don't go in cold and not know anything about the company that you're going to be interviewing at. The second thing I would tell you is a history of success. I look for that in every candidate that I interview. What is the history of success here? And frankly, being in real estate, most people that I hire and interview do not have a background in real estate. So the history of success is very important to me. Now, just because somebody might be coming out of college and has no work experience, they still have a history of success if they've been doing things with their lives. So if you, in school, achieved good grades, if you got all the way through the MBA program and earned your MBA, if you were engaged in some of the clubs here at school, if you took on leadership roles in those clubs, I've interviewed people with 4-year degrees right out of college. Guess what? I really want to hear about your junior and senior year in high school, believe it or not, because I want to hear were you on sports teams? Did you participate in extracurricular activities? Did you volunteer in your community? Because that entire 3, 4, 5, 6 year period before sitting down with me, if I can see a pattern of a history of success, that's a strong indicator to me that the next 6 years are going to be very similar to that. So history of success, don't care where you're at in your life, if you look at your last 4 or 5 years, lay out that history of success, whatever that success is.
I would say I agree with both your comments. I think they're great. I also think eye contact is very important. You have really got to be genuine and look at the person that you're talking with, know something about them, and as Paul said, definitely know something about the company. The willingness to go that extra mile. Someone that's eager, enthusiastic. Well, that's a marketing world too for you. We've got to have a little bit of that going on, or we're not going to make it. And it's just being polite, being courteous, follow through, and especially your attire, like Don said earlier. Come in, if you're going into a professional world, make sure you're dressed professionally. And how you sit, your posture is even important. And please don't walk out of it. Please don't walk out. Yeah, you're just so smart. Please don't walk out and think, oh, I have to be so perfect for my interview. That's not what we're saying. We're just trying to give you as many tips as possible to make you stand out, because we want you to be so successful. And I've had the opportunity to have interns from here, and guess who I root for? I root for those interns, and guess who I would love to have in my marketing department? Those interns, because they are great. They've come to me with experience and taught me so much. So, I don't know, I said a little more than I should.
This is open to everyone. Are there any books or articles regarding leadership or professional success in business you would encourage us to read?
I would say the book Good to Great is one that you probably have heard of, and maybe even some of your professors have kind of talked about that textbook, and maybe even been part of your reading assignments. But that is one there, again, that's a great leadership book. It gives several examples of corporations who have been successful, how they started off, and what made them a success. Not only their management team, but some of the decisions that they made, how they made adjustments when things did not look all so well, and just what they were faced with. So Good to Great is a terrific book.
I will. Thank you, Paul. Cheryl Sandberg, the COO of Facebook. She has a new one called Lean In. She is named on Fortune's 500 as the 5th most powerful woman in business. Oh my goodness, she just inspires me so much because she actually spoke up at a meeting. This is how she advanced forward. She spoke up at a meeting with Zuckerberg, correct? And spoke out about something she was planning on doing that they would never ever think about doing ever. And he ignored her. He absolutely ignored her. But she got it done, and then she progressed forward. So I think that her book, Lean In, would be a really good read. I just started it, so I can't tell you much about it. But
It's wonderful.
it's like
Wonderful. Actually, Gloria actually bought it for me as I took on this job as an MBA Association president. It's wonderful, and I think a great read for anyone, but especially women, professional women. So.
And I love all these benefits. I'm very honored to be on this panel, so I don't want them to think anything about the opposite of that.
Girl power champs
Yeah.
I would tell you that anything on self-improvement is a very good read. And I'll take that a step further. From very early on in my career, from beginning to where I'm at now, I've spent thousands of dollars on personality profiles for myself and spending money learning other personality profiles. And it's been one of the greatest self-improvement things that I've ever studied or read for me being an entrepreneur. And the advantage of it is several things. One, you learn an incredible amount about yourself as a person, what really makes you tick. And you can utilize that in helping determine what career path you might want to take. But when you take it a step further and you study and learn other personality traits, what you're going to find when you get out in the real world is you're working with all kinds of people. And the better you understand other people, the higher likelihood of success that you have. So let me give you an example in my sales career how I utilize this. It may surprise you, I'm a very strong type A personality, okay? But in my sales career, I work with quite a few engineers at Delphi. Now, engineers at Delphi have a very different personality trait than myself. They're very detailed, they love statistics, they want numbers, they want more information than I ever care to have for my own personal needs. But by learning and understanding that, and understanding their personality, when I get them alone for 2 to 3 hours to go out and look at homes, I have to turn my A off and calm down and settle down. Because if I stayed strong A the whole time, they would get out of my truck and run for the hills because that's not their personality. But if I get with another type A personality, we'll go look at 6 homes in an hour. I mean, just boom, 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 right? And so if you take time to study and really learn that, I don't care where you end up going to work and understand other people better, you'll be amazed at how far that will advance you.
I agree with everything everybody's saying here as well, and probably one thing I will add, keep up with current events. Wall Street Journal, the business section of the Indianapolis Star, the IBJ, the Indianapolis Business Journal. I read those quite often, and it just makes good reading. Again, stay up to current events, and I think that's beneficial.
I give you 2. Everything tonight's coming to 2. Kind of like Paul, right? A little bit type A. Team of Rivals, right? It's not necessarily a business book, right? But it's about Abraham Lincoln, and you can learn a lot from Mr. Lincoln. And it's a good read just in the fact of how he took disparate folks, right? And folks that, you again, have heard that phrase, right? Keep your friends close, your enemies closer, right? So it's good to surround yourself with folks that don't have your point of view, right? And, I'm guessing Paul kind of like me sometimes, thinks the smartest guy in the room all the time, right? And I'm speaking for myself, right? My days are typically like that, right? But I know it's not true, and the key is trying to find people that are smarter than you, right? And surround yourself with people that don't have the same opinions as what you do and challenge you on an ongoing basis, right? And that's just in life in general, that's a big positive. The second one is, and that's kind of what the book's about, right? Is that team of Rivals. The second one is Malcolm Gladwell, right? As an author, tipping point. It's just thinking, right? And getting information and changing the way people think about it and present it. So if you haven't read those guys or haven't read Gladwell, he maybe isn't as good as Jim Collins, right? In a true business sense, but he just makes you think.
I have one, and it's not necessarily a book. It's more of a motto. It's a motto, okay? And the motto is, your faith has to be greater than your fear. We all have fear, okay? It's natural in humans. We all have fear. But you have to be able to conquer that fear. Whether everybody is nervous at an interview, you're sitting there, you know you got an interview in 5 minutes, you're in the waiting room and you're nervous and you're just hoping to get through it. There's many times when maybe you're getting ready to start a project or maybe you're going to go into a meeting and you're apprehensive about it and you have fear. You have to understand or have confidence in yourself. Your faith has to be greater than your fear. So a lot of that, and how can you do that? How can you have the faith to overcome it? A lot of it is just preparation. Preparation is the key then to giving yourself the confidence in yourself that you can do whatever it may be that is you're going to do. Whether it's an interview, whether you're going to present a project, whether it's a paper that you've done in class, or even if it's just somebody that you want to meet and you say, oh, I can't go up and meet this individual. I'm fearful. Or maybe even facing a group, just where you don't feel like, well, maybe you can talk one-on-one, but your fear of doing a presentation to a group. You think, oh, I'm going to get tongue-tied. Oh, I'm going to stammer. I can't get up on the podium and speak into that microphone. So conquer your fear. Your faith has to be greater than your fear.
Christy, I'm going to tell a quick story. It's related to what
Is it
Don
about
just
me?
said. Not here. I became president of the Rotary Club. It's a service club organization. It's the Kokomo Rotary Club. I think I was only the 5th president since they started that club. And it started way back. And it did not allow women until about 20 years ago to be in the club. So I was very, very nervous when I took on that responsibility. Don Smith, I'll never forget this. He called me and asked me for lunch. And I thought, Don Smith. I've known Don Smith for a long time. I always respected him as, a competitor, but yet, a mentor and a fellow banker and all of this stuff. But he sat me down at lunch and he just said, I want you to know you're going to be a great president. So he wanted my faith to overcome my fear. You could tell I was anxious about it. So Don, that meant a lot to me. So,
And she was
agreed.
Paper and pencil. And now just due to the electronics, there are a multitude of opportunities. And we need skilled, talented people to do that. And you are that generation. We are, well, at least I'm kind of dinosaurs in our industry. We're not too far from retirement age. But you guys are the next generation, and you guys will be setting that standard. Sorry, they're applauding.
No offense.
Jerry said.
I agree, technology is huge. Mergers and acquisitions are on the rise. Governance, regulations, reporting, SEC reporting, that sort of thing, it's all on the rise. And so people are going to need to fill those roles. So, Tom's right. A lot of us are up here, we're archaic almost because, we learned computer programming on punch cards. Correct? Yeah, correct. So, we'd have to take our stack of punch cards to the computer center and run through. It was unbelievable. So, we're getting to the point. We need to be replaced. And again, the technology is just driving the whole thing. So,
you're probably right in your statistic that more and more people are getting their MBAs these days, and so what really the message that sends is don't rest on your MBA. Don't just be like, well, I got an MBA, so I'm pretty much assured this job over the next person, or I'm assured this promotion over the next person. So education doesn't stop. But more than that, when you're in, just work harder than anybody else inside that organization. And frankly, it won't matter what's hanging on your wall at that point. It'll matter with the organization that says that's the person we need to be moving up the line. So if you find yourself surrounded by a bunch of other MBA people, the only thing that separates you is your work ethic. So work hard.
And you can come like Paul and take a vacation whenever you want.
Do any of you worry about your positions or anything that is currently going on?
I threaten to fire myself every day.
I had a county professor tell me one time, and it's always stuck with me, that in bad times, there always needs to be a person to tell the management of the company, how bad you're doing. And so from an accounting standpoint, those are pretty secure jobs, actually. So again, the accounting people, from a standpoint, could be the people to help lead you out of difficult times. So
I don't know that worried about my job is the right way to phrase that, right? But I do believe that I need to work myself out of the job, right? And that my responsibility is to make sure that I've got a person underneath me that can take my role in a heartbeat and, you know, and continue to organically grow the organization in that regard. So if I'm not able to move up, I think our organization becomes very static, right? And it's not good to have the same people in the same job for a really long time. So I don't necessarily worry about my position in that regard. I just worry sometimes that how do you get people up and out in that respect and allow for new thoughts and new ideas.
Oh, okay. And this is kind of to wrap it up. Given where you all have been, what was your greatest accomplishment? And what was your greatest weakness?
Well, I'll just kind of start the ball off here. Again, I told you I come from a family-owned business. My father was president and CEO of it. And I came up in it, and pretty much that was always my desire, was to be CEO, be president, be chairman of the board, and be the owner of the bank. That was always kind of my goal, and I think my father wanted that for me too. But it wasn't until he actually passed away in 2009 that I took over the ownership of the business. And I really felt gratified because I felt like I had achieved a lifelong goal that I had always wanted to do. But once I kind of found myself sitting in the chair, it was kind of like, you know, kind of the faith before fear thing. You kind of think, how can I handle all these problems? I mean, even just you have to make sure the doors are open. You've got employee staffing problems here. You got the accountants, regulators, loan policies. You have all these things, and it really a board of director report. So that is kind of, I guess, you'll always have fear. You'll always have things that you think that you cannot solve, or things that are impossible to do. But I would say this: when you get into a position of supervision or management, delegate. Don't be afraid to let things go. Now, I'm not saying that you don't maybe supervise some of these people. You can't just, but you do have to be able to delegate. You cannot do everything all the time. Okay, it won't get done. You'll drive yourself crazy. Your spouse, you won't have a married life. You won't have a social life. You'll be an incomplete individual. So you have to balance these things off. So delegate. And it wasn't for a little while. It took me a little while before I kind of felt comfortable in doing that. So that was probably my biggest downfall, was I was afraid to delegate. I wanted to try to do it all myself, and it was a big mistake. And I learned that kind of the hard way. So that's my lesson.
Don, it's very true. Letting go of some of things that you have taken ownership of sometimes, and allowing someone else to do it, maybe even differently than you did it. I think that's the hardest thing for me to do sometimes. Or asking someone else to take over a report or whatever it might be. One of my proudest moments is when I'm going to have two guys too. One of them is my parents telling me how proud they were. That was huge, huge. And then one of my next biggest accomplishments is when I have an intern and her career goes on and blossoms somewhere else. And it just makes me feel like a very proud parent. I've never even been a parent, but it makes me feel like that. So.
My biggest downfalls to this day is, and I'm getting better at it as I get older, is listening. Sometimes I get ideas in my head and I want to go fix it. And I've learned that all those talented people around me, if I will listen, often they will tell me, "Todd, that's stupid, don't do that." And I will save myself some grief by listening to them. My biggest accomplishment, hands down, was convincing Jeannie Farley to marry me. My life partner and best friend is the am without her. Beyond that, kind of like Diana, if I look back over my shoulder at my career, I see turtles on fence posts. And what I mean by that is, if you ever see a turtle on a fence post, you know it didn't get there by itself. And I look back and there are people who have worked for me or who I've mentored who are, I just got a call tonight, right before this meeting, from somebody who's getting a really big promotion, a really great opportunity, who was a former associate dean of mine. So those are the things that I take the most pride in.
And from accomplishments, I agree that when you're able to have somebody that's working for you make that next step is as good as they can get in that regard, right? Because for myself, personally for myself, not near near, right? I feel like I'm only as good as the next thing that I do, right? So hopefully my biggest accomplishment in that regard hasn't happened yet, right? So from a weakness standpoint, I 100% agree with Don and Diana. Right? That delegation is difficult, and as you start out in a staff position and you move to a manager position, and once you take a leadership position, right? Management positions are sometimes leadership positions, but to get to a real leadership position, you got to move from tactical to strategic. Right? And a lot of people have a difficult time moving from that tactical piece to a strategic piece because it means you got to let stuff go, right? And you got to stop doing those reports that you did every Monday, right? And you got to stop. You just got to trust people to do a lot of things, and it's a difficult transition for everybody and for most people. And I tell you that's a weakness that I'm continuing to work on.
Since we're being recorded, I'm afraid not to say my wife's not the greatest. After you did, I was, you know.
Well, we just got that though, so.
I think my greatest accomplishment in life is when I realized early on to surround myself with people that are better than me. And you'll just be amazed at what that will do for you. The inspiration you will get from those people, the knowledge you'll get from them, and just when you're around better people, you just become a better person. It's just that simple. So if you learn that early on, you'll do well. My greatest weakness is I just dislike reading. I don't like it at all. I can't pick up a book and sit there for 2 hours and read it. It drives me absolutely insane. And so I've had to overcome that weakness in figuring out other methods to get that information that I need. So for me, it was either audio or video, where I would literally get those seminar flyers in the mail, and I'd go, I need that information, and I'd pay the $150, and I'd go take the seminar, and I'd sit there and get the visual and listen to it rather than read about it. So whatever weakness it is that you have, that you identify about yourself, there are ways to overcome that weakness, identify them, and then go overcome the weakness.
One of the advantages of sitting down here is I can say I agree with everybody. And honey, I love you too. It's all about being politically correct. You're right, not mine. Yeah. But I will tell you that I grew up, my parents didn't go to college. However, I was expected to go to college. I mean, there was no ifs, ands, or buts. I was going to go. And I didn't even have a choice. And so, so when I came out of school, it was quite a bit, it was quite an accomplishment for myself. And I'd also say reaching that pinnacle and becoming a CPA was a big one for me. Anybody who works for me will tell you that I am the master at delegating. I love to delegate. It's a difference in people. I delegate a lot of things. Probably my biggest weakness is I'm not a very good listener. When people come up and talk to me, I'll find myself, I'm thinking about my golf game tomorrow. Or, my wife and I are just sitting at a restaurant, and she'll be talking to me, but I'm listening to the people behind me. That is a big weakness. Are we done?
I just wanted to thank you all so much for the wealth of information.
I think I have one more.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for the invite to come here. And it's been very worthwhile, and I feel very honored to be part of the inaugural part of this. So.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for, I think we got some valuables.
Oh, no, I was just.
Okay, okay. I think this is very valuable for a lot of us, and so we can't thank you enough on behalf of the School of Business and the IUK MBA Association. We want to thank you. So let's give them a hand. I would be remiss not to thank our wonderful moderator, Christiana. She did a wonderful job, and thank her for conquering those fears that I don't think I could have. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Our M student improv group has a performance at 7:30 tonight. The president of your
Wow.